Welcome to the Morrison Report. Hosted by Deval Morrison, sales representative for Bosley Real Estate Limited Brokerage. Ms. Morrison has co-authored the best-selling book, Success Today, with Brian Tracy, and has been interviewed on NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliates by Bob Guinea from The Bachelor. Deval, a real estate investor, has spoken to many attendees at her real estate seminars and is currently ranked in the top 5% of agents in her brokerage. Join me in welcoming your host, Deval Morrison.
On today's episode, we have Kendra FitzRandolph, manager of Special Partnerships Next City Prize, who's going to talk to us a little bit about millennials and real estate. Kendra, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So tell us a little bit about, your thoughts on millennials and real estate and how did you get your expertise?
Yeah, well, I guess millennials and real estate, I think the world is a different place in terms of what I guess our parents thought of in terms of real estate. You go to school, you graduate from school, you buy. And for us, I think it's far more, we have this idea of shared relationships, shared lifestyles, that we would rather have a high quality lifestyle and maybe more so share our living spaces, our spaces for where we keep our things, our personal belongings, and share everything. So people are far more happier living in the urban cores with shared community spaces within their buildings and then have a smaller personal space versus the opposite, which I think were our parents' perceptions or I guess goals for their life.
Perfect. So do you think we're going to be headed back to the commune days of the 1960s, or people actually want to live together?
I think there wouldn't be enough outlets to put all the iPod and iPhone chargers, so I don't think that would be possible.
Okay.
But I do think the idea of shared economy is much more conducive to our lifestyle because we're able to live much higher quality lifestyles and still survive in these very expensive cities.
Right.
And live well.
Absolutely. And so would you say that you think millennials would be more open to sort of when you say sharing and ownership, I start thinking about could they share a duplex together where one person lives upstairs and the other person lives downstairs, but they share a house together? Yes.
Well, yeah. To be honest, I think that's exactly where it's going. I think shared ownership might be something down the line that we're going to see. Something that I will be looking at definitely in the near future is purchasing a house that is already broken up into shared living spaces that I will maybe live in one, share with the rest, and that's how I'd be able to afford the mortgage, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. Now, would you say that for your friends who are sort of venturing into home ownership, are a lot of them using sort of the bank of mom and dad to help them out?
Yes, I do think it's funny you said that. I had a very interesting conversation with a number of my friends this past weekend about that, and we are far more reliant on our parents. My mom likes to say that the bank of mom is closed, but she opens it every once in a while when necessary. But it's not something she's got shortened hours, basically. But I think that's a concern. And, if we want to talk about, the various bubbles that are at risk to pop, I think the bank of parents is a big one because our parents are sometimes putting themselves at risk to pay for our wants and needs in living spaces that are just shooting up in price, and they have yet to pop.
Right. Now, but don't you think for the majority of parents out there that a lot of them have already paid off their mortgages and have basically are living in these expensive homes that they wouldn't necessarily buy right now either, so that they have a little bit of extra money that they can shift to their kids?
I think the perception is that there's a lot of parents out there like that. I think in reality, it's really not that case. It's a far smaller percentage that actually are paid off. I think what's happening is my generation has friends with parents that do have that luxury, and we may not, but our parents want us to be happy and want us to have always strive for that better lifestyle, that they are then willing to put up that second mortgage or whatnot, take out another loan in order for us to live the lifestyle that we see our friends living.
Right. Yeah, I guess that is sort of the times. I mean, when I look to more expensive cities, do you have friends that live sort of in the Hong Kong, the San Francisco, the New Yorks of the world? What kinds of things are they doing to get into the market?
Definitely. I mean, I have a number of friends in, as you said, Hong Kong, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, what have you. I'm thinking of other ones, Tokyo, all of these, Vancouver, all of these very expensive cities.
Yeah.
A lot of them, to be honest, are not investing in the cities. They're actually investing in the smaller towns. They're renting shared spaces. They're not really thinking that purchasing is an option.
Right.
Nor is it a priority.
And would you say the millennials of Toronto are thinking? Are some of them still thinking owning, or are some of them getting so frustrated that they're only going to rent?
I think the majority, I think the ones who have wanted to own have already purchased.
Okay.
They purchased 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I think now for those of us who have yet to are holding off till we find a partner in order to share with, or have come to the realization that we will not own in the city. We probably will own outside of the city, or we will buy our parents' houses off of them would be the other option.
Right, got it. And now there was recently an article in Toronto Life where there was a gentleman, I believe he was a pharmacist, and he was talking about how he only wants to rent. He just wants to spend his money. He doesn't want to own anything. What would be your thoughts about that?
I loved Toronto Life magazine. I loved that article. I thought it was very interesting. It's funny in that it's very specific. It's a specific demographic that I think that gentleman fits into, being that he grew up in North York, so not in the downtown core. And when he moved to the downtown core, he was kind of living that, I call it the turbo lifestyle. And it's where you do go out and spend so much money, and your priorities are so based on that immediate satisfaction versus the long-term gain or long-term thought process. And that he also grew up, I think they explained it in the article, his parents want him to be at home. They want him to stay at home until he gets married. And that's a very different demographic than what I grew up as, and then what my friends have grown up with. So I think the idea that he can purchase tomorrow, but he doesn't want to because he prefers to, go to Ibiza, go to Vegas and spend, $9,000 on a weekend, which he did, I think, in the article. If I had that opportunity, I would be purchasing. I think it's demographic based. He's happy to stay at home, and his parents are happy to have him at home.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to find that with the majority of people who grew up in downtown Toronto. It's another funny saying my mother has is it's not a revolving door. Once you're out, you're out. So you're on your own. Fend for yourself. This is not. There's no comebacks. And I think it's just a very different lifestyle. I think we do, and I guess it goes back to the idea of a shared economy. For me, I mean, I do love to travel, and I love to go out and listen to music, and I would be more inclined to spending more money on a trip versus saving for a mortgage right now. I would not go to the extreme that gentleman went to, but It's the idea, again, of the shared economy. I see myself as enjoying life, but also saving more because I'm sharing it. I use Uber, I use Airbnb, I use Rover, I use, you can name off all these amazing new companies that are coming up with all these shared lifestyle best ofs kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And where would you say some of your friends are going, the ones who have decided to own? What parts of the city are they moving to? Are they suburban? Are they urban? What are they doing?
Urban, definitely urban. They're all downtown, either urban. So I guess King West, Queen West, or they're moving into kind of the mini, not so downtown, the fauburbs, if you will, the Leslievilles and the Junction and those areas. Got
it. I love that term that you use, fauburb, and that's to signify like Leslieville and the Junction. So.
Yeah, I think any person who grew up in Leslieville would not appreciate that. But if they moved to Leslieville from downtown core, they'd understand why I call it a fauburb.
It's funny. So I live at Yonge and Eglinton, and I do have a lot of friends who sort of chide me and say, "Oh, well, you live in the suburbs or you live in cottage country." And I'm so offended when they say that just because I live north of Bloor Street. I'm like, come on, it's really not that far. I'm still in the city.
Oh, I appreciate their pain. I don't go north of Dundas. So north of Bloor for me, that's a day trip. Get back an overnight bag.
I guess you know what, our city's becoming so also traffic ridden that it becomes hard to be mobile, to go to all of those other places if you don't have a car.
No, I agree. I bike everywhere. I do use the TTC. I mean, I love it. I know we can gripe about the TTC for another 3 days, I'm sure, but I think the idea of the system is fantastic, and if we just need to be patient, and the city will get there. But I personally, I bike everywhere. I think it's so wonderful in the morning to be able to bike to work. You get so much more of a feel of the beat of the city. People see you, you see them. And to be honest, I do go north of Bloor and I bike there, and it takes half the time that it would to drive, and almost half the time that it would to the subway.
Interesting. Well, actually, not the way I drive in the city.
You get there quick.
I've gotten very good at using a lot of side streets to get around.
Yes.
And so I find that that's sort of my trick for getting around the city, because I am a driver. But I do like taking the subway. I certainly don't mind taking the subway when I need to go downtown. I find it very convenient. I don't love taking the streetcar and the bus, but it's funny, on the biking front, as a driver, I kind of go, is the biking safe? Like, there's just so many times when I just kind of go, oh my God, I didn't even see that person, you know?
You know what? I think it's a two-way thing with biking. So I went to school in Montreal, so I also know the bike routes of Montreal fairly well. And then I did my grad school in New York, so I also know biking in New York as well as Toronto. So I find there is an education on both sides, and I guess it's two-story response, but two-part response. For Toronto, the biker needs to be very aware that we're not separated from the street, that we are part of the street. And other cities where they do separate the bicycle lanes from the car lanes, that is great, but then it has a problem in and of itself, because the cars will see the bicyclist as separate. So it's a win, it's not an if, when the bicyclist joins them at some point, the car is like, whoa, where did that bike come from?
Yeah.
Versus in Toronto, they're together. So for the most part, I find, as someone who's been biking here for almost 20 years, I guess, you're aware. You know that there is a bike lane beside you. If you're on Richmond, Adelaide, you know the bike lanes are there. But as a bicyclist, you need to also be aware that your lane is narrow, and you need to stay away from the main path of the road, because we are all in this together. There is no way that the car industry is going to end ever. There will always be a need for personal vehicles, and I support that. But it's an education thing where the bicyclist needs to pay attention to the roadsides, treat yourself as a real vehicle, use your stop signs, use your left-hand turns, your right-hand turns. And also for other bicyclists, don't randomly stop. Let the bicyclist in front of you and behind you know that you're stopping. And then the same thing goes for cars. They need to be aware that, if you're turning right, chances of a bicyclist being beside you, I'd go with 70%. So just look. And
right.
It's a very shared thing. But yeah, the risk what I dislike about the separated lanes that I know Montreal has is that cars literally forget that bikes are there.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I've been to cities like Amsterdam, and I've, cycled a bike in Amsterdam, and it's much different because in Amsterdam, of course, it's all bikes. There's very few cars. Mm-hmm. So cycling in Amsterdam, I feel safe. But in the city of Toronto, basically, I used to train for triathlon, so the only time I would take my bike out is if I could drive way north of the city, so I was out in farmland, and then I would feel safe because...
You went to Young and Eglinton?
Yeah. That was the only time I would feel safe on the bike, is if I was in true farmland, not Young and Eglinton, because I just found all of the cars a little scary. As a driver, one of the things I hate in the city when I see cyclists who have headsets in, and I see them texting on their phone, and I just think, there's just got to be some more rules, I think, to make sure that people don't engage in silly behavior. So, number one, I can't stand the fact that people don't wear helmets. And number two, I see them on their phones and they're listening to headsets, and I just think that's all wrong.
So to be honest, I think that is going to change very quickly. I mean, as someone, so I've been biking here since I've been biking in Toronto since I was 7 years old, and I grew up in the Annex, so I've always biked downtown. Obviously, when I was a child, I was not biking on college and Spadina and whatnot, but always understanding that there are many other things on the road that I need to be aware of. I have found in the last 3 years in particular, the number of bikes on the road is just exponentially higher. And I do agree with you in terms of the texting and